October 12, 1307. Midnight. Beneath the flickering torchlight of a Parisian temple, 20 hooded figures formed a perfect circle. Their white mantles, each adorned with a blood-red cross, caught the dancing shadows as they knelt in unison. The air hung heavy with incense and secrecy. At the center stood Jacques de Molay, the 23rd and final Grand Master of the Knights Templar. His weathered face, carved by decades of desert campaigns and political battles, betrayed nothing as he raised a weathered wooden box above his head. "Brothers," his voice echoed against ancient stone walls, "what we protect has never been gold or silver alone. We guard that which would shake the very foundations of power." A horn sounded in the distance, then another. "They come," whispered a knight, his face etched with fear. De Molay's expression hardened. "The treasure leaves tonight, as we have sworn since the days of Solomon's temple. No king, no pope, shall possess what was entrusted to us." As the knights dispersed into the night, de Molay sealed the box with wax and handed it to his most trusted commander. By dawn, the box, and whatever secrets it contained, had vanished into the mists of history. Less than 24 hours later, at dawn on Friday, October 13, 1307, the knights were seized across France. Their legendary wealth seemingly evaporated. Their power crumbled overnight. But what happened to their treasure? For 7 centuries, this question has haunted historians, treasure hunters, and conspiracy theorists alike. Did the Knights Templar truly conceal a treasure so powerful that it threatened both church and crown? Were they guardians of sacred relics that could rewrite Christian history? Or were they victims of their own success, their wealth and influence breeding fear in those who coveted their power? Tonight we journey through medieval battlefields, secret chambers, and ancient codes. We'll trace the footsteps of history's most enigmatic warrior monks, following clues scattered across continents and centuries. From the blood-soaked sands of Jerusalem to the mist-shrouded chapels of Scotland, we pursue the greatest treasure hunt in history, one that continues to baffle experts to this day. The story begins, as many great mysteries do, in Jerusalem. The year was 1119. 2 decades after Christian forces had captured the Holy City during the First Crusade. The streets of Jerusalem overflowed with pilgrims from across Europe, drawn by faith to walk where Christ had walked. But beyond the city walls lay danger. Muslim raiders regularly ambushed these travelers, slaughtering them by the hundreds on the treacherous roads to the holy sites. Into this chaos stepped a French knight named Hugh de Payens. Along with 8 companions, he approached King Baldwin II of Jerusalem with an unprecedented proposal: the creation of a religious military order dedicated solely to protecting Christian pilgrims. The king granted them quarters on the Temple Mount, the very site where King Solomon's temple once stood, and from this sacred location, they derived their name: the poor fellow soldiers of Christ and of the Temple of Solomon. History would come to know them simply as the Knights Templar. Their beginnings were humble, almost pitifully so. Contemporary accounts describe the founding knights as so poor that 2 would ride a single horse, an image later immortalized in their official seal. They wore donated clothes, relied on charity for weapons, and took monastic vows of poverty, chastity, and obedience. Bernard of Clairvaux, one of the most influential church figures of the age, became their champion. In his treatise, In Praise of the New Knighthood, he created a theological justification for their unprecedented dual role as both monks and warriors. A new kind of knighthood appears to have been born into the world, tireless in battle and pious in faith, for it combines the gentleness of the monk with the valor of the knight. With papal approval formalized in 1139, donations flooded in from nobility across Europe. Wealthy lords, unable to fulfill their own crusading vows, instead gifted land and gold to the Templars. Young men of noble birth flocked to join their ranks, eager to fight for Christ while securing salvation. What began as 9 knights protecting pilgrims rapidly transformed into medieval Europe's most sophisticated military machine. On the battlefield, the Templars were instantly recognizable by their distinctive white mantles emblazoned with red crosses. They fought with legendary discipline, forbidden to retreat unless outnumbered 3-1, and prohibited from paying ransoms if captured. A Muslim chronicler wrote with reluctant admiration, "When the Templars charge, it is as though the very earth trembles. They advance as one man, neither slowing nor hastening their horses. It is a fearsome sight that chills the blood." But the true genius of the Templars lay not in their military prowess alone. As their influence expanded throughout the 12th century, they evolved into something unprecedented, the world's first multinational corporation. The order established a vast network of farms, vineyards, and businesses stretching from England to Palestine. They built and staffed fortresses along pilgrim routes. Most revolutionary was their development of history's first functional banking system. A pilgrim could deposit funds at a Templar house in London, receive a coded letter of credit, and withdraw equivalent funds upon reaching Jerusalem, avoiding the dangers of traveling with wealth. Kings and nobles stored their treasures in Templar strongholds, trusting in both their integrity and their impenetrable fortifications. The order made loans to monarchs, managed complex financial portfolios for the nobility, and even acted as early accountants for royal treasuries. By 1250, they effectively controlled the medieval equivalent of a global financial network, all while answering only to the Pope. Their extraordinary wealth became legendary. Chronicles described Templar storehouses overflowing with gold, silver, and precious gems. But the Templars were also rumored to possess treasures of a different sort, sacred relics allegedly discovered beneath the Temple Mount during their early years in Jerusalem. Whispers circulated of secret chambers beneath their Jerusalem headquarters, where the knights supposedly uncovered artifacts from Solomon's temple, perhaps even the Ark of the Covenant itself. Other rumors suggested they possessed fragments of the true cross, the Holy Grail, or ancient scrolls containing forbidden knowledge. The Templars neither confirmed nor denied these rumors, cultivating an aura of mystery through their secret rituals and closed meetings. Initiation ceremonies were conducted in absolute secrecy, with new members swearing terrible oaths never to reveal what transpired. This combination of immense wealth, military power, and religious mystery made the Templars the most influential organization in medieval Europe. They answered only to the Pope, operated outside local laws, paid no taxes, and commanded armies that rivaled those of kings. At their height, the Templars could field a force of over 20,000 warriors and support staff, maintained hundreds of castles and preceptories across Europe and the Holy Land, and possessed financial assets equivalent to billions in today's currency. But their very success planted the seeds of their destruction. As the 13th century drew to a close, the political landscape shifted. The Holy Land was lost to Muslim forces in 1291, undermining the Templars' original purpose. Their wealth and independence increasingly troubled Europe's monarchs, particularly one king whose coffers lay empty and whose ambition knew no bounds. His name was Philip IV of France, and he was about to orchestrate one of history's most ruthless power grabs. Dawn broke cold and gray over Paris on Friday, October 13th, 1307. As the city stirred to life, royal guards moved silently through the streets. They carried sealed orders, opened only hours before, containing detailed instructions from King Philip IV himself. Their targets: every Templar knight and facility in France. The operation was unprecedented in its scale and coordination. In cities and villages across the kingdom, doors were broken down simultaneously. Knights were dragged from their beds, many still in nightclothes, bewildered by the sudden assault. By nightfall, hundreds of Templars were in chains, including Grand Master Jacques de Molay and the entire French leadership. The charges read against them stunned medieval Europe: heresy, devil worship, homosexuality, idol worship, and corruption. According to royal proclamations, the warrior monks had been secretly spitting on the cross, denying Christ, and engaging in obscene rituals involving a mysterious idol called Baphomet. These accusations struck at the heart of medieval sensibilities. Yet the speed and decisiveness of the arrests suggest something beyond religious fervor motivated Philip's actions. The true catalyst was likely far more mundane: debt. Philip IV, known to history as Philip the Fair, for his handsome appearance rather than any moral quality, had nearly bankrupted France through expensive wars with England and Flanders. The Templars were his primary creditors. By destroying the order, he could erase his debts and seize their legendary wealth in a single stroke. The king had prepared meticulously. Months before the arrests, he dispatched secret agents throughout France to spread rumors about Templar depravity. He secured the cooperation of Pope Clement V, a French pope who owed his position to Philip's influence, ensuring the church would not immediately defend the order. What followed was medieval Europe's first coordinated propaganda campaign. Philip's legal representatives publicly detailed alleged Templar atrocities, stoking public fear and outrage. Agents provocateurs claimed to be former Templars, offering lurid testimony about secret ceremonies. Meanwhile, in dungeons beneath Paris, the actual Templars faced professional torturers. Medieval inquisitorial torture was a refined science of agony. Knights were suspended by their wrists tied behind their backs, dislocating shoulders. Their feet were coated in fat and held over flames. Bones were systematically crushed, fingernails extracted. Even Jacques de Molay, the proud Grand Master who had dined with kings, broke under such treatment. After days of torment, he confessed to the charges, later explaining, "I am but flesh and blood, and I have not the strength to resist the tortures inflicted upon me." Most knights eventually confessed, though many recanted when briefly freed from torture. Their retractions were ignored. Those who consistently refused to confess, maintaining the order's innocence despite unimaginable pain, were declared relapsed heretics and burned at the stake. As news of the arrests spread across Europe, the response varied dramatically. Edward II of England initially refused to believe the charges, writing to European rulers urging restraint. Portugal's king created the Order of Christ, essentially allowing the Templars to continue under a new name. But in most realms, political expediency trumped justice. One by one, European monarchs followed Philip's example, arresting Templars and seizing their properties. Pope Clement V found himself in an impossible position. The Templars answered directly to him, not to secular authorities. Yet he owed his papal throne to Philip's manipulation. After years of vacillation, he officially disbanded the order at the Council of Vienne in 1312, not because he found them guilty, but for the good of the Church. The final act of this tragedy played out on March 18, 1314. After 7 years of imprisonment and torture, Jacques de Molay and Geoffrey de Charny, preceptor of Normandy, were led to a small island in the Seine River. There, before a crowd of Parisians, they were to publicly confess their sins one last time. Instead, both men shocked the assemblage by proclaiming the order's innocence and retracting all confessions extracted under torture. de Malay's voice reportedly rang out across the water. "I confess that I am indeed guilty of the greatest infamy. But the infamy is that I have lied in admitting the disgusting charges against my order. I declare, and I must declare, that the order is innocent. Its purity and saintliness are beyond question." King Philip, upon hearing of this defiance, ordered both men burned at the stake that very evening. As flames engulfed him, Jacques de Molay reportedly cried out a final, chilling prophecy. "Pope Clement, King Philip, within a year I summon you to meet me before the throne of God." Whether by coincidence or curse, both men were dead within the year. Clement from a wasting illness in April, Philip from a hunting accident in November. But something more tangible than curses disappeared during the Templars' fall. As Philip's troops stormed Templar facilities, they discovered an astounding fact. The legendary Templar treasure was gone. The royal treasury had expected to seize immense wealth, enough to stabilize France's economy for generations. Instead, they found only routine operating funds. The vast majority of Templar gold, silver, sacred relics, and documents had vanished overnight. Chronicles from the period described the king's mounting fury as castle after castle, preceptory after preceptory, yielded only modest sums. The Templar fleet, anchored at their Mediterranean port of La Rochelle, had sailed the night before the arrests, laden with cargo. Their destination remained unknown. Philip launched a massive search operation, scouring France for hidden vaults and secret storehouses. He tortured captured knights specifically about the treasure's location. A few provided tantalizing fragments, tales of midnight convoys, sealed instructions, and hidden maps, but nothing led to significant recoveries. The most substantial account came from a Templar squire who claimed to have helped load a convoy of 18 heavily guarded wagons that departed Paris the night before the arrests. When asked what the wagons contained, he said only, "That which would have saved us all." Whatever the Templars possessed, whether gold, relics, or dangerous knowledge, it had slipped through Philip's fingers. The mystery of where it went and who guards it now has endured for 7 centuries, spawning countless theories and desperate searches. What exactly constitutes the Templar treasure has fueled speculation for centuries. The possibilities range from the mundane to the mystical, each theory supported by tantalizing historical fragments and circumstantial evidence. The most straightforward theory suggests the Templars simply hid their vast material wealth. Gold, silver, jewels, and sacred relics accumulated over 2 centuries. The scale of this fortune would have been staggering. As Europe's primary banking institution, the Templars managed deposits from kings, nobles, and wealthy merchants. They collected charitable donations from across Christendom, controlled vast agricultural estates, and operated lucrative shipping enterprises. By conservative estimates, their liquid assets would be worth billions in today's currency. Historical records offer intriguing clues about this physical treasure's fate. The night before the arrests, multiple witnesses reported unusual activity at the Paris Temple, the Order's European headquarters. Jean de Chalons, a Templar knight who escaped capture, later testified to the Inquisition that secret and heavily laden carts left the Paris Temple under cover of darkness, headed toward the Atlantic coast. This aligns with reports that the entire Templar fleet disappeared from La Rochelle harbor hours before Philip's men arrived. 18 ships, reportedly loaded with cargo of great weight, simply vanished. Where might these ships have sailed? Scotland presents one compelling possibility. Robert the Bruce, Scotland's king, was excommunicated by the Pope in 1306, making him a natural ally for the persecuted Templars. Scottish folklore contains numerous accounts of Templar knights arriving with great wealth around 1307 to 1308, and fighting alongside Bruce at the pivotal Battle of Bannockburn in 1314. Rosslyn Chapel, built by the Sinclair family in Scotland during the 15th century, contains stonework covered in Templar symbols. Beneath the chapel, ground-penetrating radar has detected sealed chambers that remain unexplored. Other theories point to Portugal, where King Dinas created the Order of Christ, essentially allowing the Templars to continue under a new name. The Order's wealth could have simply transferred to this new entity, protected by sympathetic royalty. But physical treasure may represent only a fraction of what the Templars possessed. Perhaps the most intriguing theory suggests the Templars' true treasure wasn't gold at all, but knowledge, secrets so powerful they threatened established authority. This possibility stems from the Templars' unique position during their early years in Jerusalem. Their headquarters on the Temple Mount, directly above the ruins of Solomon's Temple, gave them unprecedented archaeological access to one of history's most sacred sites. Medieval chronicles record that the Templars conducted extensive excavations beneath the Temple Mount. What they found there remains unknown, but rumors spread of discoveries that challenged Orthodox Christianity. Several possibilities have been proposed. First, the Templars may have discovered ancient scrolls or texts from the Library of Jerusalem, possibly including early Christian writings excluded from the Bible. These might have contained theological perspectives that contradicted official church doctrine. Second, they could have found evidence supporting alternative narratives about Jesus. Some theorists suggest the Templars discovered proof of Christ's survival after crucifixion, or documents detailing his bloodline through marriage, ideas that would have been considered heretical. Third, the Knights might have uncovered knowledge from pre-Christian traditions. The Temple Mount had previously housed religious structures from multiple faiths, including mystical Jewish traditions. The accusations that Templars worshipped an idol called Baphomet may have been a corrupted reference to absorbed Kabbalistic practices. Supporting this knowledge-based theory are the sudden advances in architecture, navigation, and finance that followed the Templars' establishment. Gothic cathedral construction, employing mathematical principles unknown in Western Europe, flourished in regions with Templar presence. Their innovative banking systems displayed financial concepts previously unknown in medieval Europe. Most tellingly, Philip's interrogators seemed oddly focused on books, documents, and secret teachings during Templar questioning, suggesting the king sought more than gold. The final major theory traces the physical journey of escaping Templars and their treasure across continents and even to the New World. Historical records confirm many Templars escaped arrest. Some integrated into other military orders, while others disappeared into remote monasteries or assumed new identities. But organized contingents may have fled with specific purposes, carrying both treasure and knowledge to predetermined sanctuaries. Scotland features prominently in these escape theories. The abundance of Templar symbology in Scottish chapels and castles suggests significant Templar presence after the Purge. The Sinclair family of Rosslyn, with documented Templar connections, later sponsored expeditions to North America, potentially a century before Columbus. The Zeno narrative, a controversial 14th century account, describes a voyage led by a Prince Zikmund, possibly Henry Sinclair, to lands matching Newfoundland and Nova Scotia around 1398. Archaeological discoveries in Nova Scotia include medieval stone constructions with Templar symbols and a 14th century Scottish coin. This connection leads directly to one of history's most persistent treasure hunts, the Oak Island Money Pit in Nova Scotia. First discovered in 1795, This elaborately engineered shaft contains multiple flood tunnels and mysterious artifacts, including a stone with symbols allegedly translating to 40 feet below, 2 million pounds lie buried. Portugal offers another Templar haven theory. The Order of Christ, established to absorb Templar assets, later sponsored Portugal's Age of Discovery. Their distinctive cross adorned the sails of ships commanded by Henry the Navigator and Vasco da Gama. Could these explorations have been continuations of earlier Templar navigational knowledge? The most controversial theory suggests the Templars reached North America long before Columbus, burying treasure at locations from Nova Scotia to the American Southwest. Alleged evidence includes stone carvings with Templar symbols in rural Massachusetts, mysterious structures in Newport, Rhode Island, and medieval European artifacts discovered throughout New England. While these theories vary wildly, they share a common thread. The Templar treasure, whether gold or knowledge, didn't simply vanish. It was systematically relocated according to contingency plans prepared well before Philip's betrayal. The Knights, masters of logistics and secrecy, had anticipated their fall and ensured their legacy would continue beyond their order's official demise. The search for Templar treasure continues into our modern era, employing technologies the medieval knights could never have imagined. Ground-penetrating radar, satellite imagery, advanced linguistic analysis, and underwater archaeology have all been deployed in this centuries-old mystery. Rosslyn Chapel in Scotland remains a focal point for researchers. Built by William Sinclair in the 15th century, the chapel's intricate stonework displays an encyclopedia of symbols connecting to Templar, Masonic, and even pre-Christian traditions. In 1998, ground-penetrating radar revealed sealed chambers beneath the chapel floor, chambers that remain unexplored due to the Sinclair family's opposition to excavation. The chapel's most remarkable feature may be its musical cubes, 213 carved stone blocks displaying patterns that musicologists recently identified as musical notations. When played, they form a medieval composition unlike any previously known, potentially encoding information through harmonic mathematics. Oak Island off Nova Scotia continues to yield tantalizing clues. Recent excavations uncovered a Roman sword, medieval cross, and parchment fragments, all in a location that should contain no European artifacts predating Columbus. Carbon dating places some discoveries in the 14th century, precisely when Templar refugees may have crossed the Atlantic. In 2019, researchers employing aerial thermal imaging identified a massive underground vault near the famous Money Pit. Attempts to reach it have been hampered by elaborate flood tunnels that protect whatever lies buried, engineering sophistication matching known Templar defensive techniques. France has yielded its own discoveries. In 2021, a farmer near Rennes-le-Château discovered a hidden chamber while expanding his cellar. Inside were Templar graffiti and a small lead box containing parchment fragments with encrypted text. Cryptographers have tentatively identified the cipher as similar to known Templar coding systems, though translation efforts continue. The ancient Templar headquarters in Jerusalem has remained largely inaccessible to archaeological investigation due to political sensitivities surrounding the Temple Mount. However, Israeli authorities permitted limited radar scanning in 2018, revealing extensive tunnel networks precisely where medieval chronicles placed Templar excavations. Perhaps most intriguing are the Copper Scrolls, ancient documents discovered among the Dead Sea Scrolls in 1952 that detail locations of hidden temple treasure. While predating the Templars by a millennium, these scrolls describe caches of sacred items from Solomon's temple, the very treasures the Templars allegedly sought. Several locations mentioned remain unexcavated, raising the possibility that the Knights found these ancient guides and followed them to treasures still hidden today. Vatican archives have gradually released Templar-related documents, including interrogation transcripts containing cryptic references to that which was found beneath the temple and the true nature of the Grail. These fragments tantalize researchers, but stop short of explicit revelations. Modern forensic accounting has attempted to trace the flow of Templar wealth through medieval financial records. Banking historians have identified unusual patterns of gold transfers throughout Europe in 1307 to 1308, with significant concentrations moving towards Scotland, Portugal, and Switzerland. Perhaps most controversial are connections to Freemasonry. While mainstream historians remain skeptical of direct organizational links, undeniable symbolic parallels exist between Templar rituals and early Masonic ceremonies. The sudden emergence of organized Freemasonry in the early 18th century, with its emphasis on Solomon's temple symbolism, suggests at minimum a philosophical inheritance from Templar traditions. These investigations continue, employing ever more sophisticated technologies. Yet the treasure, whether gold, knowledge, or something else entirely, remains elusive. Perhaps this is by design. The Templars were masters of secrecy, and their contingency plans may have included protections meant to last centuries. Or perhaps, as some suggest, the treasure has never been lost at all, but rather guarded through the ages by descendants of those who fled that fateful October night in 1307. 7 centuries after their destruction, the Knights Templar continue to captivate our collective imagination. Their transformation from historical figures to cultural icons speaks to something fundamental in their story that resonates across time. This enduring fascination manifests throughout modern culture. Dan Brown's The Da Vinci Code sold over 80 million copies by weaving Templar mysteries into its narrative. Films like National Treasure and Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade center plots around Templar secrets. Documentary series exploring Templar connections air regularly on history channels worldwide. But why does this particular medieval order maintain such powerful cultural relevance? Perhaps it's because the Templars represent the perfect historical mystery, offering documented facts intertwined with genuine, unexplained elements. Unlike purely fictional enigmas, the historical record confirms that something did happen to the Templar treasure. King Philip's rage at finding empty vaults is well documented. The Templar fleet's disappearance remains historically verified. The Templars also embody a powerful archetype, guardians of sacred knowledge standing against corrupt authority. Their story contains elements that resonate deeply. Betrayal by those they trusted, secret knowledge preserved against tyranny, and the possibility that truth survives despite oppression. For some, the allure lies in the ultimate historical validation, the possibility that established history might be proven incomplete or even deliberately misleading. The Templar mystery suggests that beneath official narratives lie deeper truths, waiting for discovery by those persistent enough to seek them. Others are drawn to what the Templar treasure symbolizes, rather than its physical reality. If the Knights did discover ancient wisdom beneath the Temple Mount, it represents a potential connection to humanity's deepest spiritual heritage, knowledge that transcends divisions between religions and reaches back to civilization's origins. The Masonic connection adds another dimension of intrigue. Did Templar knowledge resurface centuries later through Freemasonry, influencing the Enlightenment and even America's founding? The architectural parallels between Templar churches and Masonic temples, along with symbolic similarities in rituals, suggest at minimum a spiritual inheritance. Perhaps most compelling is the possibility that the Templar treasure whatever its nature, was never truly about material wealth. The Knights' original mission centered on protecting pilgrims and sacred sites. Their banking innovations served pilgrims' practical needs. Their military actions defended vulnerable Christian communities. In this light, the true treasure may have been ideological, a vision of spiritual authority independent from corrupt political structures, protection of knowledge against those who would suppress it, and a brotherhood transcending national boundaries in service to higher principles. This interpretation finds support in the Templars' final acts. If pure self-preservation had motivated them, individual knights could have saved themselves by genuinely renouncing their order. Instead, many chose torture and death rather than betray their vows. Jacques de Molay's final defiance, recanting his forced confession, despite knowing it meant immediate execution, suggests commitment to something more valuable than life itself. Whatever the ultimate truth, the Templar mystery endures precisely because it operates at this intersection of documented history, genuine unanswered questions, and profound symbolism. It represents the eternal human quest for meaning beyond material existence, for knowledge that transforms rather than merely informs, and for truth that survives despite all efforts to suppress it. The sun sets over Rosslyn Chapel, its centuries-old stones glowing amber in the fading light. Intricate carvings, angels, demons, plants from continents supposedly undiscovered when they were carved, catch the last rays in sharp relief. Beneath the chapel floor, sealed chambers detected by radar remain unexplored, their contents unknown. Across the Atlantic, waves crash against the shores of Oak Island, where engineering marvels created by unknown hands have frustrated treasure hunters for over 2 centuries. Whatever lies at the bottom of the money pit remains protected by flood tunnels of remarkable sophistication. In Jerusalem, tourists walk the Temple Mount, unaware of what may still lie hidden in unexplored chambers beneath their feet. Chambers where 9 knights once began a journey that would transform medieval Europe and create mysteries spanning centuries. The Knights Templar, warriors, bankers, and perhaps guardians of profound secrets, vanished from official history in 1312. Yet their legacy continues, not merely in cultural fascination, but in persistent questions that defy simple answers. If the Templars truly discovered something beneath Solomon's temple, something worth protecting with their lives, would the powers that destroyed them ever permit its revelation? Or would such knowledge remain guarded through centuries, passed silently from keeper to keeper? The answers may lie sealed in Vatican archives, buried in remote locations from Scotland to Nova Scotia, or hidden within encoded manuscripts still awaiting proper translation. Perhaps they wait within the symbolic stonework of medieval chapels, where master masons embedded messages for those with eyes to see. Or perhaps the greatest secret of the Templars is that their treasure was never truly hidden. It may have been carried forward through history in plain sight, in architectural innovations, in banking systems that transformed economies, in philosophical concepts that shaped the Enlightenment, or in brotherhood traditions that survived to modern times. As Jacques de Molay faced the flames on that March evening in 1314, he reportedly uttered these final words: "The truth fears nothing but concealment." 7 centuries later, we still seek that truth. And somewhere, perhaps, silent guardians still maintain their ancient watch, not over gold or silver, but over something far more valuable. For as the Templars themselves understood, some treasures transcend material worth. They are guarded even now, not by men, but by vows sworn in silence.